podcast. As usual, we are proudly sponsored by Hez Boxing Equipment. The new hoodies here. Go and plug them. Busy weekend yet again, boys, and it's ramping up even more with our Cage Warriors 183, Oktagon 68, and UFC 313. We've seen titles change hands. Yeah. We've seen new champions be crowned. But we will start at Cage Warriors 183 in Rome.
Banger, absolute banger, mate.
A great card. Again, another one from Cage Warriors, just so consistent with it. Alex, I've got to go to you about this main event. Liam Gittins, Alessandro Giordano. Not the way you want it to end with that eye poke, but what were your thoughts? How did you feel the fight was going?
To be honest, in my eyes, that was a TKO by Liam Gittins. Obviously, his fingers went in his eyeball. It is what it is. But I thought I was going to carry it on, but the whole momentum of the fight was going in Liam Gittins' direct. Right, just to make it clear, the whole fight was going in his way. The first round, there was some good back and forth action. Good boxing from both fellas. But Liam Gittins was setting the pace. Was coming forward. The second round, he was teeing off. He was teeing off towards the end, and then in the third round, it looks like it was going to be the same again. When the eye poke happened, he was teeing off on him against the cage wall, and then he's put his hand out to measure the knee, or maybe to put his hand on his head, and then that's when it's just prodded him straight in the lobe, mate. But it is what it is. It's not how you want it to end, but in my eyes, that was a clear Liam Gittins win, and a bit of a shit ending, but I think that's a TKO Liam Gittins.
I've not seen much of the fight. However, we said in the build-up, can Gittins take it to where he wants to take it, and he's a strong competitor, especially for a bantamweight. So did he manage to take it where he wanted to get it, Alex?
Yeah, I'd say so. He was beating him up pretty comfortably on the feet, so he just kept coming forward, putting the pressure on against the cage, measuring out with his guard, bang knee, bang. It was just constantly teeing off on him. So he didn't need to take him down. He didn't need to start grappling with him because having so much success in the first place. So yeah. I think what's this? His second or third title defense now. Let me just pull up my facts before I get this wrong. Yeah,
I think it's a case of do you run it back with Giordano now? He wants to, and really you don't want to leave it. You don't want a no contest on your record, do you? Without settling it. But for Gittins' point of view, who gives a fuck? That would have gone one more round. He was winning it anyway.
Yeah.
From his point of view, it's not something you need to revisit. He can move on with his career now without a shadow of a doubt. That's the way I see it, and that's the way
I think Giordano needs to get back in the queue.
I think that's the way. It's okay, mate. I think that's how the promoters, his trainers, and himself will see it as well.
Do you think it in terms of someone like Gittins, who is literally on the periphery of probably being in the UFC now? Obviously, Cage Warriors champion to UFC pipeline is very strong. Is that is it a frustrating sort of result to have on there? I know that he was dominating the fight, but on paper, if you're getting the call up on the no contest, is that tricky? And do you think that affects him, and that maybe that would be a reason to just do the fight again, just to say, no, look, I would have handled this guy. Don't worry about that.
Definitely, Nathan. I agree with that on the flip side. Yeah, because you run it back again, because Liam knows if you were to run it back again, Liam knows he was beating him comfortably, so he's more than likely to do it again. And you don't really want to risk him with another guy like Quadrian. I think that's why that fight didn't get rebooked, in all honesty. That would have been a grappler's delight, but we know how good Quadrian is at grappling, so the matchup was a lot more difficult for him than it would have been with Giordano this past weekend. So yeah, you could on the flip side, if you agree with that, you could run it back, and then he doesn't end his Cage Warriors reign on a no contest, because are the UFC going to look at that and want to take him, as you said? I don't think so.
And I mean, we speak about not definitive finishes. There was nothing quite more definitive than Aiden Lee's submission of Mastria Giacomo, which is a hell of a name, handing his first loss. But I mean, Aiden Lee's someone that's been around for a while now. Bellator, fought all across the UK. Alex, must have just been great to see him just put it all together and get that win.
Yeah, this Giuseppe Mastracamo, like he wasn't some bum. Like he was going in, he was going in 6-0. I'm not sure what the Italian scene's like. I'm not sure the level of those guys, but he was going in with some steam behind him, and Aiden Lee just shut down the party, mate. They should have heard the boos from the crowd as it was there going shush shush shush, and they're going the bars fucking shouting shit. And to be honest, mate, I was blown away by how quick it was. He kind of put the pace on him straight away. Got to kind of a side body lock, jumped on the back, and then Giuseppe's tried to. He's had one arm. He's had the choking arm on and one hand there, so it's been trying to free the hand. Giuseppe's holding on for dear life on the wrong hand, and Aiden Lee's just gone boosh, boom, pulled it off, locked up the choke, and fell to the floor, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah, I've seen it plastered all over Cage Warriors. It's a highlight reel finish. It was fucking fantastic. And I said it in the build-up, said don't sleep on Aiden Lee. Because as you just said then, Alex, we're not sure of how good quality this Italian MMA scene is. However, he was facing an unbeaten opponent, which to them, from their perspective, it's like, yeah, Aiden Lee, good name, from a good gym, fought good opponents, been around for a long time, had 20 MMA fights. If we beat him, then that'll look great on our record when we're only 6-0. But Aiden Lee went and he stopped it. He stopped the Italian job. So get up the boy. And I've spoken to him today as well, and he's going to come on for interview. So it'll be exciting to get him on and get his afterthoughts on that. That'll be great. That unfortunately, Jordan Molinari came up short. Should I just talk us through that a little bit, Alex?
Split decision, lost. Was a good competitive fight. Caperna's low kicks in his boxing, his low kicks won in the fight, in my opinion, because after a while Jordan kind of struggled to put a lot of pressure on the front leg, and I think that kind of compromised his striking, his grappling too, because there was a few times he shot a few takedowns and they got stuffed, but I think that's because his leg was pretty compromised. But he did have some good moments in the fight. Don't get me wrong, like in the third round, towards the end, he managed to get his back and he was working for a submission, but it was just a little too late because the buzzer ended up going, unfortunately it was just a bit too late for him. But oh well, you live and you learn, don't you?
That's it. Just move on quick. It's early on in his career anyway. And just to finish off the Cage Warriors card, Adam Scheller, he won by unanimous decision, and we were saying heading into this that if he lost, he would have been 5-5 professionally, and he would have been in a tough spot. So that's a much needed win against another Italian prospect. But all in all, a relatively successful night for the English and Irish scene in Rome, and for the Irish scene in Oktagon, at Oktagon 68, should I say, in Stuttgart. Now that was full marks all round. Dennis Frimpong, wow, what he did to his opponent, he battered him. I felt a bit sorry for this Robin Frank because it was his debut, and they've put him on the card in his hometown against a guy that's out for blood, wanting to prove a point in Dennis. He's had all the drama with Padda. He's got a kid on the way. He's fighting through Ramadan, so that shows how committed he was to getting the bag in this fight. He pummeled him for 3 rounds. And he left his opponent with no other choice than to be carried out of the cage. And he was being that bitchy about it, refused to shake his hand afterwards and stuff like that. But Dennis was absolutely clinical. Did any of you manage to catch it or seen any clips afterwards? We've got some content with him afterwards, obviously.
Yeah, I seen a few of the highlights, and I watched and I seen some clips as well. What I was really impressed with was how well he was mixing in his submission hunting during the scrambles.
There's about 2 or 3.
Look, like you don't normally see that from Dennis, but
do you know why that was? Do you know why that was? Because the day before in the press conference, his opponent Robin Frank giving it, you're just a kickboxer and da. However, he's obviously not researched Dennis very well, because Dennis's way into mixed martial arts was through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's a purple belt. So he wanted to make a point. He wanted to prove a point. Bitch, what I can grapple. Say something.
Yeah, he has a few wins by submission on his resume anyway. I'm pretty sure one of his early pro wins was by sub, wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not too sure. I'd have to double check that.
Yeah,
but as someone, sorry, Alex, as someone, Dan, you know Dennis very well, much better than we do. Where do you see next for him? Because obviously starting to put it together now in Octagon, and this is another great win away from home, so to speak. I know you asked a question about potentially coming to Dublin with someone that we'll talk about in a moment's time, but what do you see next for Dennis?
There's an opponent that they're looking to make a fight with. It's called Ayan Topalai, he's Albanian, and he was due to fight with Dennis at Octagon 68, but he pulled out. He was at the arena, and Dennis has approached him, and there's a clip. If you go on Instagram and social media, there's clips. So Dennis has approached him and said, "Oh, we're fighting in September," or "Oh, we're fighting in May. We're fighting in May in Munich." And he stood up, this Topalai, and he's gone, "We'll fight now, we'll fight now." And Dennis was like, "What are you talking about? He was meant to be in the cage with me tonight. What are you talking about?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, come on, we'll go now, we'll go now." And Dennis is just like, "Shut up, you feel, let May book it." Do you know what I mean? Like 8 weeks away, get it booked. So yeah, that Topalai's been next on the list, and you think he's like 6-1 or something, so that's another good matchup. Then after that, there's a name called Hafini Nafuka, who I don't know if anybody's aware, out of used to, but they've had loads of back and forth over social media over like the last 12 months. They've even had a confrontation in a mall in Germany at one time, so there's a good backstory there. They're relatively okay now. There was handshakes and that in Germany this weekend between them and stuff, so they're relatively okay. So I think they could still turn it into a bit of a strong rivalry as well. With that said, Dennis turns anything into a strong rivalry, as we know, boys.
Yeah. He just seems to proper get under the skin, doesn't he? Like the amount of shit he gets from the fan base.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. But to be fair, I'd be pissed off too if someone was coming to my country and beating up all my fucking own fighters too. So fucking, that's what it is. Yeah.
And obviously, going from one full force combat favourite to another, Will Fleury, the double champ now, and how good is it to see him find a home in Octagon, and not only find a home, but almost just take it over and now run the roost there now, light heavyweight champion, heavyweight champion. Talk us through that fight, Dan, because it must have been brilliant to see it live in person.
Yeah, it was a lot different to the fight 69 days ago when he fought Vamola for the light heavyweight title, because he was in control in that fight. That was still a tough fight, but he was in control in that fight. This past Saturday, he didn't have full control, which was probably expected with him moving up to heavyweight so quickly, and Todev being a quality operator. Todev carried an 11-6 record, but he was 9-1 in his last 10 going into the fight, and is a high-level operator. For Will, as you said, finding a home, just a little over a year ago, he was sat in a hotel in Vegas with a broken hand thinking, fucking hell, do I really want to do this anymore? I've been in the game 13 years. It's tough. Along came Octagon, said, "Yeah, big man, multi-fight deal. You might be the thing what we need at light heavyweight or heavyweight potentially." Will said, "Yeah, all right." Turned up in Birmingham, won with a broken hand, went and nearly killed the guy in 70 seconds in the stadium in Frankfurt. Then he's going to beat Vamola. Now he's going to beat Todev. That's 4 fights, 322 days, double champ status, faster than anyone's ever done it. Now, all roads have got to lead to Ireland, especially off that performance. Because he even said as well, he's really honest immediately afterwards. And there was points in the third round where he was giving him big licks. The combinations were body shots, head shots, big kicks, the usual array from Flora. But then he was shooting for takedowns at unnecessary times when he had him in good positions and on his way to hurting him. So he knew that he'd made mistakes there. However, that takes it to 50 minutes now in cage time in his last 2 fights. He needs a break. He absolutely needs a break now. There's, in terms of the light heavyweight title, that will possibly be next. There's a contender fight between Alex Popek and Pavel Lango. Lango's the bloke that he knocked out in 71 seconds. So is that really relevant to see that fight again? Probably not. But if Popek beats Lango, then there's his challenge at light heavyweight. But will probably then likely take a couple of months off now and wait for that fight to play out, which is in Munich, I think. it's over the next few weeks anyway, the next month or two. So Fleury can just relax a little bit now and enjoy being the double champ, can't he?
Yeah. He's deserved it. Like, he basically completed Oktagon already on his fourth fight. It's like the Jay Cartwright meme. Oktagon completed it, mate. He's fucking sped run it. He's fucking sped run Oktagon. So yeah. I think a bit of time off for the champ, let him heal up and fucking fight who's next. I mean, when's that eliminate about? What you mentioned just then, in a couple of months' time.
Yeah, I think it might be in May.
Yeah,
I think it's on the Munich card.
Yeah, few months. Find a clear challenger. Boom, get straight back into it. It'll probably do him some good because, I know, and his last two fights have ended up going the distance. So maybe a bit of time off, and he's getting to 30-second finishes. Who knows?
Yeah, he's done back-to-back camps as well in two different weight classes.
No.
That's going to, and especially at in the big hitting divisions, it's going to have a toll on his body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
322 days, 4 fights, 2 titles. I can't stop saying that. Like, I was saying it in the press conference. I've said it all week. Like, I just think that's amazing. Obviously, they've given him the opportunity to do so, and it's not like there's a lot out. It's not like there was a lot of challenges or fights for them to create without Fleury, do you know what I mean? So I think he's helped them as much as they've helped him, and Fleury's happy to go and do it in the stadiums and the big selling arenas in Prague and Germany and stuff like that. And then obviously all roads leading to Ireland. In the post-fight press conference, I did ask the co-promoters, and I got a pretty much stern reply that it's going to be. I asked him if it's going to be 12 to 18 months. He said more like the 18-month mark. But I suppose, Nathan, that gives them a bit more time now, don't they, to get it right not with what they did with the 3 UK shows in terms of ticket sales. I know that Ireland do it different and they back the people, but they do need to do it right, don't they, for business sense as well.
Yeah, that's tricky, the 18-month thing, because you just simply don't know where you're going to be at. I mean, he's a fantastic fighter, but there's every chance that Will Fleury might not be the champion in a year and a half time, whether that means he's gone somewhere else or he's someone's beaten him, and the same with Dennis as well. Sort of your main Irish fighters, you do have to be careful of it, but the Dublin crowd's always great. I mean, the way they get behind numbers for a guy like Peter Quilly, who isn't exactly a top fighter, he's someone that just the crowd took to and loved, and they backed him to the hills against guys that you knew he would sort of lose to, but you were there just in case he was able to pull it off. So it goes that same way. We'll be interested to see, because it's not an untapped market, but it is probably a market that hasn't really been seen to in a number of years, especially I can't remember any UFC shows there. Obviously, with McGregor being
always the last one I remember.
I mean, exactly. So it's been a real number of years since they've been there. So yeah, why not? It is sort of an untapped market in that sense, and why not put a big card out there? And hopefully for Oktagon, in terms of their marketing, you have a double, at least a single champion, if not a double champion, going into that, and Will Fleury, and then you've got Frimpong, and I'm sure they've got some others as well. Dan, talk us through the rest of the card, because you were there, you were at the event. Muradov getting a big win and some other big fights as well. What were the highlights for you just watching that card?
Muradov, he was clinical, and he fought Inamoto as well, who's an absolute legend on the European MMA scene. He's not been stopped for 6 years. He's one tough bastard to beat, and Muradov made it look easy. Went and grabbed the title afterwards. Now that interim title fight has been announced versus Patrick Kinsella at the stadium, so we will get to see that in Prague, boys. Because that's an interim title fight, because the current middleweight champion Karim Mengizek is in the Tipsport middleweight game changer, and he has opted not to put his championship on the line should he get to the final, thus meaning that they are holding an interim title fight while whatever happens with him in the tournament plays out, so then they can create a time frame for an undisputed title fight, which I think is right. I think they should have done that with Cater last year with the featherweight championship as well. So Fleury will be looking for the winner of that eventually, because he still wants the 3-weight championship thing. But Muradov looked great. There was a debut for Ellis Silva, who beat Roman Paulus, who I've seen a few times. I've seen him fight over here as well. Ellis Silva's a Brazilian. He's like 14-8 or something like that. Now 15-8. Looked really good. He was shredded, absolutely shredded. Don't know if he's bloody on something, but Jesus, he was one refined character. But either way, he looked really good. And I asked him in the post-fight press conference, said, it was another successful Brazilian debut in Oktagon. What do you want to do? What's your aspirations in the European promotion? And he said he wants the winner of the title fight between Igor Severino, who is known as the Hannibal Lecter because of his biting antics in the UFC, versus our boy Jack Cartwright, which is in a couple of weeks' time, which is a very tough fight to call anyway. But with him saying that in the post-fight press conference, I'm not saying he's going to get a title shot straight away, but the bantamweight division is well open. We've got Jonas McGard still around there as well. But if Severino was to win and this Elif Silva was to win his next fight, should he get matched, then an all Brazilian title fight is it's expanding the market for Oktagon in a sense as well, because they do tend to sign their Brazilian here and there, don't they? They've had Felipe Lima and stuff like that, who's been champion. So I'm not saying that they're going to go over to Brazil and put on an event, but they're still going into a market where people are able to watch online, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah. Who else? Because the card was good. But they're my main takeaways for it. There was Alan Olmo as well in the co-main event. He'd been out for 5 years. He'd had was it a brain tumor or something like that? And where he's at his operation, he's got a scar on his head, and that opened up during the fight, which is pretty nasty as well. So he's got to go on stitches for that. But yeah, the main standouts were obviously our boys, the Irish boys. But yeah, it was another good event all in all. Yeah. Another sitter.
And I think just to go back to the Brazilian, I think every European MMA promotion needs to just have random Brazilian sort of on the card anyway. It takes me back to the Darren Stewart fight where I can't remember the fella's name, but they had that 44-year-old and he took him out. He won the fight.
Yeah, it was sick. That
yeah. So it is, you know, they are a staple of European MMA. Those Brazilian fighters that turn up and give just the hardest afternoons or evenings to the European fighters. So they're a staple. So whatever happens with Silva, you know, let it happen too. And Cartwright Severino is a really good fight. I'm definitely intrigued to see that. And maybe
definitely. I can't wait for that.
And McGard, maybe that's the fight for him, you know, taking on someone that's debuted, got a little bit of momentum, and you don't, you know, that's you want this fight, winner of this fight gets the winner of that fight. Simple booking, right? But I mean, we speak about Brazilians. It was the Brazilian didn't have such a good night at UFC 313. Alex Pereira, the basics told the difference, didn't they, in that fight against Muhammad Ankalaev, the new light heavyweight champion, winning a decision and a deserved victory as well. Alex, what did you take away from that fight?
I think the threat of the takedown changed everything. It's weird to say that the mixed martial arts light heavyweight champion hasn't had much threat from wrestling recently, but after Ankalaev shot the takedown in the first round and Pereira knew that the threat was there, he seems to be a bit more hesitant and he was on the back foot, and then Ankalaev just has absolutely capitalized on that. Now fair play, I've seen a lot of people slating the cage control, but that's a massive part of MMA, and that's, if that was Merab, no one would have been saying anything because that's part of his style. I get that we have another Russian champion, which is another Russian champion, which is kind of getting a bit old as well. But yeah, it was a great fight, proper grueling fight. I'm not sure what Alex Pereira does. Does he have some time out now? Does he rest up because he's?
Nah, you run it back. You run it back straight away. I think you were spot on in when your opening sentence. The threat of the takedown was enough. Now that I think you're right. I think you're spot on. And Pereira worked at the races. From what I've seen, all the highlights, he worked at the races. He looked lethargic. That wasn't the usual Pereira that we used to see. However, let's not sleep on Ankalaev, because me and Nathan have been saying this for months before the fight was booked. Like once he runs into Ankalaev, that title will more than likely change hands. It has now changed hands.
Yeah,
it's tough because Ankalaev didn't, it wasn't nothing flashy. It was just the basics. It was mixed martial arts, and that's how he beat Pereira. someone, and that is for someone that has come in from kickboxing, come in late, and while all these flashy knockouts, let's be honest, the matchmaking has been favourable to him, and that's not even a criticism, because that's allowed Alex Pereira to become the biggest star in the UFC. Is the fact giving him these guys who aren't going to do that, and they're just going to stand. But eventually, we knew that he was going to have to run into Ankalaev, and to be honest, I was thinking, well, Pereira always just finds a way. He's just going to do it again. He's just going to knock him out somehow. Ankalaev's not always someone that can secure the victory. I believe he lost to Paul Craig, didn't he, in that sort of last second crazy submission. So he's not always someone that can finish the job, but Ankalaev just did what he needed to do, and people can criticize the way he went about it. Pereira can criticize the way he went about it, but at the end of the day, it's an MMA fight, it's a sporting event, and he won. It's one man against another man. He won that fight, and that is what it is. So I think definitely agree they've got to run it back. It's so important that just even from a UFC perspective, they probably want Pereira to get that title back as soon as possible, but they should run it back straight away. I don't really see a clear contender at light heavyweight outside of Pereira just doing it again. I mean, you have Prochazka, which I know Ankalaev hasn't been shy of sharing his opinion on, but I think you've got to do the Pereira fight and then see where the land lies, and maybe that allows for Pereira to have a little jaunt up at heavyweight before he calls it a day, and then you can sort of see how the light heavyweight division is looking. But let's be honest, it's not the strongest division, so let's just get the Pereira Ankalaev fight booked again.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think run it back straight away. I don't really want to see him jump up to heavyweight off the back of having a title loss as much as he did. I know he did that after middleweight when he lost to Adesanya in the rematch. However, I don't really want to see him do that to heavyweight because and it's difficult as well if he doesn't win in the rematch. If he loses again in the rematch, Pereira, what happens then? What
do you do? What do you do? That is an interesting problem. I didn't even think about that, because you just assume he'll be fine. But I mean, that would really be sort of I don't want to say the word aura, but it would sort of kill that a little bit. It would definitely take away from him. But you have to I think you have to do it. You have to trial by fire and get him in there with it. And if Pereira is meant to be the top guy in the UFC, you overcome and you win and you beat Ankalaev. That's how you do it. There's no other way around it. Now, this is the first massive obstacle he's faced in his MMA career. Obviously, the Adesanya loss as well. He overcame that. Now it's Ankalaev. It's a different proposition. It's a different set of skills. But, let's see. Let's test the metal now and see if Pereira really is one of the all-time greats, which he already is in combat sports. But in terms of just MMA, if he can overcome this against Ankalaev, I actually think that makes it almost more impressive, because he was beaten and not just a lucky switch. He was soundly beaten by Ankalaev. So now it's time to prove what you've got. And that's the sort of thing, for me at least, that establishes you as an all-time great, is coming over those setbacks and bouncing back even better. So there's no way to run away from it. Ankalaev Pereira 2 has to happen. I don't really mind where it'll be in America, probably Vegas, I assume, but I don't think that's going to play a part. They're obviously not going to do one in Russia. They're not going to do it in Brazil. So they're going to just do another big American fight. And it's a good main event. And the UFC aren't, they're not particularly star heavy at the moment. So that is the fight to run back. No one's really going to watch Ankalaev. Well, people are going to watch Ankalaev perhaps, but they're not going to pay for it. So there's the fight. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I've not really thought about where, like you said, you won't be bothered to have it anywhere in America.
It's not one of those where you can.
Why not? But maybe why not put it in Brazil?
It'd be good, but I just
it's more in Pereira. I know I don't either, but then at least it's more in Pereira's favour. Yeah, they'd have the atmosphere, they'd have the crowd, they'd have the energy. They'd all be screaming, they'd all be going fucking crazy. Just imagine that. But yeah, it's unlikely to happen, and they'd want him for a big American pay-per-view card, likely Las Vegas. It'd likely be Vegas again.
Yeah,
but
that's it.
Another success, one that was successful Brazilian, another one from Fighting Nerds. Now they just keep churning them out from here, don't they? Wow, what a spinning heel kick that was!
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, just absolutely. And I like King Green. I think he's a fantastic
It's sad to see him. It's becoming a human highlight reel for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, it's tough, man. But look, you get caught by them sometimes, and it's tough. He was a big part of the UFC sort of apex time when it was fine to have fights in the apex. He was a big part of that, and it's sad to see him get caught by a kick like that. But that is the sort of win that puts you on the map. It puts you on the market, and people are going to be wanting to see Mauricio Rufi's next fight, and that's all you can do when you get given a main card slot. Take it and then do something like that. I mean, unbelievable. It almost didn't connect. It just perfect
It was
for him.
sick, right? It was
Out. It was
sick.
Unbelievable. And you know, that is what you have to do if you're on a pay-per-view main card. And just really, really fantastic. I mean, we'll go back up the card quickly to talk about the main man, Justin Gaethje, back in the win column. I just very happy for him. And to be honest, I think he lost that first round, but he came back and won the next two and got the decision win. And I mean, just, you know, I don't know Gaethje's title chances nowadays, but just nice to see him get a big win against a really good opponent.
He needed that. He needed that big win. And it was against... It's always interesting when you're rematching someone that you've already beaten. However, he beat him as soundly as the first time. The first time was fight of the night, where it was contended for fight of the year, for crying out loud.
That was so good.
But yeah, I'm really, really, really chuffed for him. Just because the fact I know the Holloway fight that he was getting battered for 5 rounds, but he's one of them fighters, Gaethje, that the Fight Disciples boys read it out. They had the proper statistics for it. I think 7 of the last 8 years, he had a title. He had a fight of the year contender 7 out of the last 8 years. The 1 year that he didn't, he followed it up the following year by having 2 fight of the year contenders, which is just fucking unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah. You know, and that's going to be his legacy. Gaethje, the human highlight reel, the guy who'll fight anybody and he'll leave it all in the ring, all in the cage for you. He's unquestionably walking into that Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, he's one of the best fighters in UFC history, probably the most entertaining fighter of all time. Just unbelievable. I mean, again, another good win. It leaves Fiziev in an awkward position, but I think people can look past that because he's lost 2 of his last 3 losses were against Gaethje. Another one he got injured in. So, it's an unfortunate on paper one, but, Fiziev's going to be fine.
Yeah, there's still plenty of fights there for him. It's irrelevant.
And I don't think you mess around with Gaethje. You just put him up. You rebooked the Dan Hooker fight, surely, because those two. This probably wasn't a fight of the year contender. You do that. That is a fight of the year contender. Yeah. Stick it as a main event, and that's the best fight night card of the year, I imagine. If just already with that at the top, so I think it's pretty cut and dry for Gaethje. I don't need to see him go for the title. I'm sure his ambitions will be that, of course, but I think we know how the Makhachev fight goes. I think we probably know how the Topuria fight one goes as well. But the opportunity's there. I mean, look, and if you can't get Hooker, get Oliveira. And I know that fight ended quite quickly last time, but yeah, I'm always down to see it again because just on paper it reads so beautifully, and it reads just like 25 minutes of, well, probably 15 minutes of violence, because I don't think it's lasting the full fight.
I don't know if Charles would fight anything less than a 5 rounder now, would he?
Well, no, I mean in the sense of it would be booked for 5 rounds. It just ain't going to get there.
Oh, right. Yeah. Of course, yeah. But another one on the card, Jalen Turner, and he's announcing his retirement as well. And quite young. Don't know what your take on that, Nate.
I mean, no one ever truly retires from MMA, so I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he's got lined up in his personal life. Maybe he's got something in his career that he wants to do. Maybe he's just upset after the loss. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see him back. I think he's had a good career at Jalen Turner. If this is it, I mean, we've seen it before in terms of, I can't remember who it was that retired quite young as well. The Welsh fighter, someone retired quite young, but I forgot the name. Yes, Jack Shaw retired. Maybe it's the thing now in terms of just looking after yourself, and if that is it for Jalen Turner, he can be really proud of himself, because if I'm right that his pro career didn't start brilliantly. He was 2-2 at one point, and then just slowly built himself up, took his opportunities, but went on a really good win streak, and then unfortunately probably got to a point that was just a bit too far for him in terms of where he was at in his career. But to be on a UFC main card, he can look back on that really proudly, and he can be happy with himself. And in MMA, it's never truly it. So I'm sure if something was to come up, I mean, we spoke about Carlos Ramola. We've seen that guy. It was the last dance, and I said about a million things about him. And he's fighting fighting there at the same place. He's fought since then. He's going to fight against the same guy. So
yeah, when anybody says it's a last dance, it doesn't mean it's a last dance, does it? We're just saying, Alex, with your technical difficulties, are you going for a number 2? Whatever it was you was doing, you're back.
No, apologies, guys. Apologies, guys.
Well,
the lead I had plugged in was some fucking dodgy ass cable, right? And then, oh mate, I was having a nightmare in the
well,
few minutes leading up to
it's
it.
all right. We're just saying anyway about Jalen Turner retiring early, but yeah, in terms of last dances, it never is, and especially that young. I mean, look at Liam Harrison on the weekend in Manchester. It was like a one championship event. I'm sure everyone's seen the images and stuff on social media. He'll fight again. He's already said he was going to have one championship fight. Anyway, this was meant to be the last dance in the UK. And then when they've asked him in an interview with Jim King afterwards, he said, "Is this going to be the last fight in the UK?" And he just went, "No comment." And they've got a you know, and while they're growing now, I've never seen Muay Thai like it. Let's just touch on this for a minute. I've never seen Muay Thai like it. I've been to these Hitman Fight League events, and the production, everything about it. They even have 4 ounce, 1 championship glove fight, roll to 1 championship tournament. If you've not been to one, guys, you need to get to one.
Yeah, there was the one that just passed the Liam Harrison last dance. A few guys from my gym went down, and obviously Callum Derbyshire, who coaches at the Forge, he fought on there, and the same as you, Dan. I'm just blown away by the production value on it. They're on par to some on some of the stuff you see on Sky Sports. I think, you know.
Yeah. Well, put it this way: when I went to Bowlers last year, it was more rammed than I have seen at some Cage Warriors events. It was chocker. I've never seen Bowlers like it. They made it look like a proper arena, like you said, like production value, everything. It looks like you'd see something like it on Sky Sports.
Yeah.
But moving on to more events at Bowlers this week, we have 2 Cage Warriors events. We have the Cage Warriors 184 Unplugged, and that is headlined by George Hardwick in his lightweight title defense against Lucas Clay. Lucas Clay is making his promotional debut. However, he's fought in LFA, which, as we know, is a very good standard. It's similar to Cage Warriors standard in the States, isn't it? And he's 4-2 there, so he's not got some shit record. He comes in it off a win, an armbar win, but that was more than a year ago, in January 2024. George Hardwick, as we know, is siblings that are champions with Hara, and that's on the Unplugged card. That one, that card's quite stacked. There's nothing massively stand out, but I'm just going to run through it quickly. We have George McManus versus Kadeem Diop, J. Kai Hagens versus Marin Vetrillo, Matthew Camilleri, who we've had on a couple of times, versus David Jacobson, Mitchell Good versus Farshad Nazania, Nel Ariano versus Danny Hartwell, Brandon Guest versus Loic Pillon, Michael Tashoum versus, I'm not even going to try and butcher that Romanian's name, Contravicius or something like that. Yeah. But did you get that then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a couple of those names. I'm not like I'm super knowledgeable on some of the European ones, but I mean Matt Camilleri we've spoke to, and you know that's someone very knowledgeable, very detailed in his answers he gave, and someone that thinks a lot about his career. So it'd be interesting to see how he gets on against Jacobson. I mean, he's coming off 2 wins. If he can keep that going, I know he's been at the cage for a little bit, but if he can keep that going, then sky's the limit for him in terms of what he can do in Cage Warriors. I was at Mitchell Good's debut win at Cage Warriors, so I'll be intrigued to see how he continues up. If I can't remember it fully in terms of, I think he might have been sort of against the run of it at the point, and then he managed to get it and just clutched up and got the victory and really put himself on there against the guy who was a tough test, but someone that hasn't got a lot of wins on his record either. So be intriguing to see how he gets on. He's obviously someone they've got a bit of stock in, someone that's fought at the IMMAF championships. So someone that's super impressive. And then, I mean, you go on to the 185 card. I mean, that's the Luke Riley. You know, we talk about last dances. You'd like to think all going well. This is his last Cage Warriors dance, and he will soon jet off to the UFC. Alex, you must be excited for this one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm buzzing for the back-to-back cards, like the most. I mean, and both main event, like the main events of both are absolute bangers. We're eating well this weekend, 100%. But yeah, like you said, the last Luke Riley fight on Cage Warriors, supposedly, if everything goes well, touch wood.
I'll believe it. I believe it's his last dance when I see the UFC poster with Luke Riley's fucking face on it.
Yeah. Well,
That's when I'll believe it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Listen, the kid's been in fight of the year contenders for the last 2-3 years running. He's steamrolled everyone. Yeah, he's been matched late, but he's been matched well. He's been matched very, very well, and he's steamrolled people. See the way he blitzed that guy in the main event last time? That's likely what's going to happen this weekend. He's going to be screaming, "Make the phone call, Dana, come on." It just needs to hurry up and happen. He's too exciting of a fighter not to be in the UFC. He's, 10-0, 11-0. He's not got a title fight. They don't want to match him. You don't want to match him with the Hardwick because then that's going to fuck up both of them getting in the UFC. So it's like, right, here's Luke's main event. There's Harry's main event in a few weeks in London. Keep them away from each other. But they still need to have the clear plan that they go into the UFC. And I just hope it is the last dance. But like I said, I'll believe it when we see the poster. Yeah. But that card's stacked as well.
We can't be doing this contender series stuff with Luke Riley. It's too much. It's too overkill. Let's just get him in. I mean, I was surprised George Hardwick was George Hardwick that was in he lost in the contender series. I'm right in saying that.
Yeah.
And that almost felt like, why is he in there? But then I guess that proved why is he maybe wasn't quite ready at that point. But Luke Riley is ready, and I mean, let's just get him in there, get him a fight. I mean, if you want to have fun, sign Harry Hardwick as well and do that fight in the UFC. Let it matters a bit less than what in terms of their careers because they're already there. So just do it when at the big stage, and then
Yeah, the only thing with that, though, Nathan, I know the Hardwick boys go down to next gen quite often.
Well, fair enough. But
I know.
We'll see.
But maybe down the line, maybe naturally over time, when they both do get to the UFC, it's likely that they'll stop training with each other maybe a lot because they know in the back of their heads the potential of that fight would be there.
Yeah.
I hope so. I mean, it's going to be a busy, as always with these UK events, it's going to be a busy night for next gen. And Connor Wilson, huge fight, flyweight title fight against Creasy. What do you reckon, Dan, for this one? Someone obviously, again, another sort of full force favourite in Connor Wilson. So how do you reckon he's going to get on?
Connor Wilson's in a title fight, did you say?
Yeah, he's in the vacant flyweight championship against Tom Creasy, if Tapology is correct.
Is that what that says?
Yeah.
Yes, what Tapology's telling me.
Yeah, I've got up the Cage Warriors website, but it's not got it up at the minute. But geez, mate, big fight.
Really?
Big fight
Whoa, where have I missed this? Are you fucking joking, man?
Well, that's what it says in Tapology. I mean, I could be miles off it here, but
breaking news, full force combat. Breaking news.
Cage Warriors vacant flyweight championship. That's what that says. Yeah. Whoa. Hang on a minute. This is fucking big. This. How come I've not seen this?
I'm not sure, but I mean, if it is the case, then what a big fight for him. And
absolutely, because he was. Do you remember? If you remember when just before you spoke to him, Nathan, he was on a bit of a skid, weren't he? And he'd managed to turn it round, and he's been on a good run since. It's there's nothing on social media.
Yeah, it doesn't say on social, so maybe it's not. So maybe it's not a title fight, but you imagine if it's not just a title fight, there's title implications on this one, and a win for Connor Wilson, make it 3 wins in a row. Then you can talk about title fight, and maybe Tapology won't lie to us about the title fight.
I just know that I thought the champion was Shaki Hake.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why it's saying that, to be honest. Actually, now thinking about it, it's not a title fight. I mean, they'd probably be higher up on the card on here, but as we say, title implications if Connor Wilson.
That flyweight division in Cage Warriors, it can heat up over the next 12 months. Joanna Scott, Connor Wilson, there's a few of them in there, isn't there? It's tasty. That it's a really, really good division. That actually, I'm looking forward to that unfolding because Joanna's fighting in a couple of weeks as well, isn't it? So the time, or even maybe if the title does become vacant, if Connor wins this week and Joanna wins in a couple of weeks, make that for the vacant title.
Yeah. I mean,
there we go. Sorted.
Perfect. And we've got a couple more sort of bigger names on this one.
Adam Cullen's
Undefeated fight. Jack Humphreys, Nick Bukima. I don't know if I've said that right. You've got Sam Kelly, Richard Kalos. There's a couple. Joe Amber's fighting against Michaela Juski. You've got Hewitt Tebbett, a couple of sort of guys looking to make stuff happen in Cage Warriors. Teddy Stringer undefeated, taking on Antonio Sheldon.
That's a banger.
That is a banger.
That's a banger. That's one hell of a fight. Adam Cullen's back on the card as well. Do you know what? I'm majorly excited for this now. Both of them. Both of the cards. Title fight on one of them. And then that one that you've just read out, it's next gen heavy as usual. We've got Chris Price on there as well. Chris has been out of the cage for 18 months, so it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to come in like. I do know that he's been working with the strength and conditioning coach that they all work with, Paul Reed, and they all go in hammer and tongs with him. Adam Cullen, he'll be out for blood because we said in the last interview with him, we asked how many pullouts he's had. He's had 30, now 31 in total in his career. He's only like 9-10 fights in. Which I know, so average 3 a fight, which is fucking brutal. So he'll be out for blood in. He'll be out for the kill. I'm just majorly excited for it. Any standouts for you on there, Alex?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Adam Cullen fight the most. He absolutely throws the kitchen sink at fucking everybody he fights, so I'm buzzing for that one. Teddy Stringer versus Antonio
fight of the night, that, innit?
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Antonio Sheldon, going to be an absolute fucking war, mate. I'm looking forward to that one. To be honest, I'm just looking forward to for the whole weekend. Just kicking back, kicking back, chilling. Just back to back MMA cards. I'm looking forward to the Jack Humphreys fight too because I'm pretty sure he won gold at the IMAFs.
Yeah, he's a good fighter. Yeah. He's a very good fighter as well, Jack Humphreys. He's from the Midlands somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah. I was following when all that was going on. I was following on social media. I know he had his Cage Warriors debut not too long ago as well. Won by submission in that too. So going to be looking to keep up the momentum. So yeah. I'm looking forward to that one. I think I think that one's gone a little bit unspoken about. I've not heard many people mention that one yet. But yeah, mainly Adam Cullen and the Teddy Stringer, Antonio Sheldon fight. They're my fights to watch for this card, I'd say.
Absolutely.
And to be fair,
sorry, Dave, go on.
I was going to say Cage Warriors probably take precedent this weekend because what I was talking, I was just looking at the UFC card, and I mean they've managed to put 13 fights together. But Christ, you know what I mean? So this really is sort of the main card. I don't see there's not a fight on that UFC card that is better than the Luke Riley fight, for example. So you know that this is a real. You know, I know Cage Warriors is sort of like a sister promotion and a feeder for UFC, but I mean people are more likely going to be tuned into that than this, and especially they'll probably do it in a way where that's the lead-in for that UFC card. So I think a lot of eyes are going to be on Cage Warriors this weekend because I mean that UFC card is crap. So
tell you one UFC card that's not crap though, and it is actually panned out to be all right. Leon Edwards headlining versus Sean Brady. Nathan, you've done a recent interview with in the UFC bantamweight Nathan Fletcher. So please, everybody, go and check that out. It's interesting. He's facing former opponent in the amateurs, Keelan Loughran. That's going to be tasty. The interesting quote from that press conference for me is when he said he feels like after the first fight, Keelan's gone back and he's copied his style. He was always dead flashy and stuff, and then he's gone back and now he's moved over to Liverpool since that. And he's more of a grappler shooting for double legs and all stuff like that. So I'm really, really interested in that fight. Molly McCann, I'm really interested in her fight. I hope she can pull it off because I know she got injured in the last fight, so that played a part in the defeat. Who else is on there? Morgan Jordan Vucenic, Duncan. Oh my God! Wow,
he's fighting Nathaniel Wood and Chariot. That's a great fight.
Banger of a fight, mate.
Chris Duncan, Jordan Vucenic. Listen, this is a great domestic point of view card, isn't it? Obviously, we've got an international headline fight, and there is international fights on there. But from domestic point of view, Chris Duncan, Jordan Vucenic. I suppose I think from UK fans, especially Cage Warriors fans, you can call Morgan one of our own. So that's kind of a UK a UK interest fight. I know it's a massive
It's
fight.
a social media fight, him and
Yeah. But
fight versus Charrier.
It's massive for us, especially for Nathaniel Wood as well. You know, that's a huge fight for him. It's going to be a massive name because Terrier's got like 500,000 followers or something on social media. Crazy.
Yeah,
we will do a proper preview. We will do a proper preview on this, but we're just getting the hype up now, aren't we, ahead of next week, boys?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, there's just every fight on that card pretty much, like bar one or two are like a good fight. I mean, even got Kutaladze just sneaking in at the bottom of the card. He beat Jordan Vucenic. He's beat Gamrot. You know, this is a really strong card and much better than their last offering. Mick Parkin fighting. Yeah, I can't wait. We'll talk about it more next week, of course. And do check out that interview with Nathan Fletcher. He seems full of confidence ahead of that fight against Loughran. And we spoke about Paddy's chance against Ilya. And he's pretty confident in his guys. I mean, I understand next gen they're going to back each other, but he's very confident in Ilya. Styles make fights is what he says. And obviously Paddy, we know what he thinks will happen between Nathan Fletcher and Loughran when they meet at UFC London.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in again. Don't forget, head over to Instagram and check out the bucket. Loads of content on there. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you again next week.